Hi, welcome to another episode of Help from a Sister. I'm your host, Veronica White. Today's topic is forgiveness. To me, forgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's killing you, it's eating you away. That other person has probably moved on, is not thinking about it. Um, and not really sure unless you express yourself to them how what they did to you affected you. So you're contemplating, you're thinking about it, you're replaying it in your head and reliving it, and they're moved on. They're doing something different. The best thing you can do for that person, I wouldn't even say it's for that person. The best thing you can do for yourself is to let it go. Let it go and let God. Or let it go to start your healing process for you to move on. So, let me share a story with you of how forgiveness helped me. Because most times you don't have a chance to talk to the person or express to them how you feel about a situation you've experienced. I'm going to say I've had the pleasure of having conversations with people that I've been in a relationship with after the relationship was over to express to them my thoughts on how things went or my concerns about some things they did while we were in a relationship, because now there's no emotional attachment to it. It's me sharing my opinion to hopefully make that person better. And please know, from each relationship that I've had in my past, I've grown and I've learned things from it. And I became better for the next person, which I wish the same for them also. If a relationship don't work out, the best thing for two people to do is to grow apart, go your separate ways. And if it's meant to be, y'all will rekindle that in the future. If not, it was a lesson and a blessing, and move on. Okay, so we're going to talk about, I'm not going to use names, but a guy I was in a relationship with, I'm going to say from my early teenagers years into adulthood. Um, I decided that I was working two minimum wage jobs. At the time, I only had one son, and I only got to see him 1.5 days. Like I would get him from Friday to Saturday. I drop him off Saturday. He goes with his other grandmother. No, yeah, he goes with my mom from Sunday to Monday. And then Monday through Friday, he's with his other grandmother. So I was like, wow, this is a lot. The best thing for me to do is to go back to school, right? So I had a conversation with my boyfriend at the time and was like, hey, I think I need to go back to school because me working two minimum wage jobs is not making it. But if I go back to school, I'll get an education. I can do something a little different. Mind you, I had already been in college before, but I left because I had to raise my son. So he was like, well, as long as you can still pay half of the bills and go to school, that's fine. I'm okay with that. At the time, I thought it was a little unfair because he could have paid all the bills. But my father, before I left home, explained to me if I could not provide for myself while I'm in this apartment, then I shouldn't leave home. And I told him I could do it. And I was going to do it. So I left home. So when he brought that scenario to me, I was like, yes, as long as you can pay half, you can go back to school. I said, okay, well, I'll figure it out. I'll work it out. So I quit one of the jobs. I went back to school. That relationship didn't last too much longer, but we had a child together. So we stayed in contact and we would talk off and on. Hence, 3 years later, I'm graduating and we have a conversation. And he like, oh, do I get a ticket? Can I come to your graduation? I looked, I smiled. No, you didn't help me graduate. You didn't contribute to that. No, you can't. He was like, okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure he didn't feel no way about it. So 2 years after that, I have a conversation. Well, probably shortly after that, or maybe at that time is when we had the conversation. And I expressed to him that at that time he was older than me and he could have helped out a little more and been a little more supportive of what I wanted to do, because the better or more successful I am, if we're in a relationship, that means both of us is going to benefit from me getting the education, because at the time you didn't have one. He didn't understand that, but he did share with me a story about his adult relationship when he first started dating. The young lady was older than him. She worked a minimum wage job, and she gave him that same ultimatum, like, hey, long as you can pay half the bills, you can stay here. So he assumed like that was the way it was supposed to go, versus looking at that was your situation with her. I'm younger than you. She's 6, 7 years older than you. I'm 9 years younger than you. But again, the way what you acquire from one relationship, you take and you use it to build for the next relationship. So after we've had that conversation, and I think he meet a young lady maybe a year or so later, and she says she was married. I guess she was getting a divorce and she had a child. Imagine, we still have kids together. He barely helps out with me. But he felt the need to come back to let me know that, hey, he met a young lady. She wanted to go back to school. And he told her, hey, you can come stay with me. I'll cover the bills for you to go back to school. I had to look and smile because I said, I have kids by you. She don't. Where was that help for me? He's like, well, based on the conversation we had, I figure I should try to help. Oh, another person? Why wouldn't you come back and try to help me? I'm the one that have your kids. Forgiveness. He didn't know better and he was learning. And just because he was older, I should not have expected that he knew better, right? If we didn't have the conversations to discuss it and understand what role each other played in the other person's life. And I didn't learn this until I got older, right? Because 16, 17, I didn't have my first son until I was 19. But even though I wanted to be grown and I thought I was grown, I realized now I wasn't. I was just starting out in life. It teaches you lessons quickly. So that was one that I learned a lot of different lessons with him though. But that was just one. So the next relationship that I would say that I've learned a lesson from, it depends on what you try to take away from a relationship. I'm going to say each of my relationships, not only did I learn, I also was able to share information to help the other person. So one guy, I needed to see a guy who loved and supported his kids whether he was with their mom or not. So I dated another guy. At the time, he had, I'm going to say, 3 kids, a, 2 sons and a daughter. And one of his sons lived an hour away from him, and another son lived an hour and 30 minutes in opposite directions. So he would leave his house, go to one child's house to pick up one child. That was an hour and a half away. Leave there and go another hour and 15 minutes away to pick up another child to come back to his house, which was like an hour away. Faithfully every week. And not only did he pick up his son, his oldest son had a brother, and he would pick his brother up too and spend time with both of them. And this young man had a lot of different skills. He learned a lot of things. How would I say that? He was very knowledgeable. He knew how to do hair. He knew how to fix cars. He was an accountant. Just a well-rounded guy. Very helpful. Just very helpful. So I learned from him how the love that a man would have for his kids and not let anyone stand in the way of that. And I just hadn't saw that because my kid's father chose not to participate. But whatever their reasons were, I've forgiven them for that because I did what I needed to do. And that's all that matters. It's not what happened to us. It's how do we respond to what's happening, right? So I can't say because my kid's father chose not to be in their lives or to participate fully. That had anything to do with me. No, that was them. And I wasn't bitter at the situation. It made me better because I used to let my kids know sometimes adults go through things too, and we don't always have it together. Most people think because you're older, you know the right way, or you should know the right way of doing things. That's not always the case. So we have to give people grace and mercy because there's times in our life where we need grace and mercy, and we're all going through something, right? It's just how do we overcome it or redirect our energy to not focus on the things we don't have or what we're lacking, but the things we do have and what is within our control to change and to do something about. So that's why when I speak on my relationships, I can speak from the experience that, hey, those are lessons learned. I've learned, I've grown, and the other person that I was in a relationship learned and grew from our interactions. But thank you for letting me share another episode of Help from a Sister. I'm your host, Veronica White. Enjoy the rest of your day.